Oh my God. Speed has never been so quiet. Oh wow. It doesn't get old.
If you read Twitter, there are only two kinds of EVs: Teslas and cars that are not Teslas. Right, Elon? Porsche and its parent company Volkswagen have invested more than $1 billion to change that. The Taycan 4S isn't the first, or maybe even the most important EV that company will make. But since it's a Porsche, we were paying attention.
There's almost never been a Porsche that's had a harder job than the Taycan. It has to be a good car, like any new car. It also had to be worthy of wearing the Porsche crest with all of their motorsports history and driving history. It also has to just be a good EV. You need to be able to use it all the time, and it has to be comfortable. Thankfully, it's not an embarrassment. It's not an embarrassment at all. So this is the Taycan 4S. Lands between the base Taycan and the Turbo and Turbo S, of course. It's right in the middle in terms of power, price, etc. It starts at $103,000. This one has a number of options that pump it up to $130,000. It's got stuff like you can change the wheels, you can get the panoramic glass roof, the 18-way adjustable seats, which I highly recommend because everyone is a little bit differently shaped, and you can adjust it on long trips to keep you comfortable. And you can also get stuff like the PASM, air suspension, carbon brakes, etc., etc. Now, yeah, this is the middle spec car. It has the middle amount of horsepower. That's not a bad thing. The internet makes you think it's a bad thing because you know about the Turbo and the Turbo S, so you think, well, this is less than that, so it can't be as good. But that doesn't mean this isn't good. It's very fast. 0 to 60 is 3.8 seconds. 482 horsepower, that is a ton of power. You don't need more than that. It's so quick. It's so quick. All right, let's talk about the steering. This car weighs 5,000 pounds. It's really, really heavy. That's because of the battery pack, of course. Most EVs today are going to weigh a lot. Usually a car that weighs that much is going to have overpowered steering so that you don't really notice the weight, or it's just going to be really hard to turn. This has landed so perfectly in the middle. Porsche's EPS, electronic power steering system, I think is the best on the market, regardless of which car it's in, Cayman, 911, etc. It's very, very good. The front wheels talk to you through the wheel. The steering is light without being numb. It's quick without being twitchy, and it has enough weight that you feel like you're driving the car. It's very, very good. Now, any electric vehicle worth its salt has regen braking. So as you slow down, it uses the motor to recharge the battery. And in the early cars, regardless of the manufacturer, you could feel the transition from the brake pad to the regenerative motor. And it was upsetting because the rate at which you were slowing down would change. Sometimes it would suddenly grab the car harder, sometimes it would grab it less, and you really had to pay attention when you were slowing down and be ready to move your foot. Porsche has gotten it absolutely perfect. When I jump on the brakes, I have no idea which system is slowing me down. I don't know if it's the regen, I don't know if it's the caliper. It's just a consistent rate of deceleration. The pedal feel stays the same throughout, and it makes it easy to drive on a track, on a twisty road, or just out here on your commute. It's excellent. I think the first questions that come to someone's mind when they hear electric vehicle are, how far will it go and how quickly does it charge? So the EPA says that this car with the larger battery has a certified range of 227 miles, which does not seem like a lot. But Porsche had an independent tester called AMCI do a test, and they certified it at 272 miles. And we've seen journalists go over 300 while using the air conditioning, the ventilated seats, all the other systems. They're not hypermiling the car. So if we're going to be talking about EVs, where we have to talk about charging, Tesla set the bar, right? They built this huge network of charging stations. They all have superchargers, and their app and navigation is excellent. Companies like Electrify America have tried to solve the problem for other EVs that aren't Teslas, and they've put these stations at different places around the country, malls, gas stations, etc. The problem, though, is that not all of these are super fast. The two here are 350 kilowatt. They're faster than Tesla's supercharging systems, and they'll charge this car from 0 to 80% in about 22 minutes. But if you get here and these are full, then you have to use one of the other chargers, which are 50 or 150 kilowatt, which adds a lot of time to your day. And worse yet, some of the stations that are built are only 50 kilowatts. So you could pull in hoping to charge for 20 minutes, and then you're there for 4 hours. When I pulled in, I had 18% charge. I'm already at 35% in just a few minutes. Now, why does it go so fast from 0 to 80, and then that last 20 takes 40 more minutes? Well, think of it like an empty baseball stadium, okay? When the stadium's empty and people start filing in, it's really easy to find a seat. Anyone can just go sit wherever they want. As the stadium hits 80%, it's harder to find a seat. You know, you gotta shuffle past the guy that already had 3 beers on the way in, he bought 4 popcorns, he's got 5 noisy kids that don't understand social norms, they won't get out of the way, and you wanna yell at them, but it's not okay to yell at other people's kids. It should be. That is what the electrons are doing, okay? They're filing in, they're trying to find a place to go in the pack, but it's crowded. So this car comes with Porsche's PASM as well as the air suspension. And that means you can have a lot of drive modes and adjustability. You can change the ride height, you can change the stiffness of the suspension, and then you can change how responsive the motor is to your right foot. So I can go up here to the drive modes, and if I select normal, it sets the ride height a little bit higher, the suspension's a little more softly sprung, and the gas pedal is not quite as aggressively tuned. If I go to Sport, obviously that turns everything up a notch. Sport Plus, the car lowers down, gets stiffer, it gets more reactive, etc., etc. You guys kind of know how this works. The interesting one is range mode. So what range mode does is it limits the car to 60 miles an hour and it lowers it. It makes the coefficient of drag as low as possible and it limits the speed. Now you might be thinking, well, why do I need that kind of limiter? Well, it's so that you don't overdrive the car and then run out of juice before you get to your destination. If you're worried that that's dangerous, because what if you need to get out of a situation or pass a car? Well, don't be. It just requires that you stomp your foot all the way to the floor and then it kicks down and accelerates, like this. See? Now I can only test so much of this car's abilities here on public roads, but to really see what it can do, we're gonna have to go to the track and I'm gonna hand it over to my friend and Pikes Peak International Hill Climb champion, Yoshihara.
Interesting.
I don't know, it makes me laugh. So you're like, like it's a different thing, right?
Oh, wow.
This is pretty cool to watch you experience this.
Oh, the brake doesn't slow down as much as I thought.
The car's 5,000 pounds.
Okay.
So,
But other than that, it's pretty amazing feel. All right.
let's go race pace.
All right.
See how that feels.
But you have to brake pretty quickly. That's one thing. You know, go so smooth, so you kind of forget about sense of speed sometimes. Right. So you gotta remember it gets pretty quick right away.
Yeah, you don't have the sound of the engine telling you you're going really fast.
Exactly.
And then you look down and you're like, oh, that's a much higher number than I thought I was gonna have. Ooh.
Yeah, it is heavy car. If you start pushing, you can feel it a lot. But as a 5,000 pound car, damn man, it's so good. It's so good. It's like having a rail on the ground. Feels like it.
Yeah, because all that weight is super
I think
low.
it's the low center of gravity. I can feel that right away. And the braking, the regen brake is not as strong as like other electric cars that I've been driven.
Because even in Sport Plus, like if you lift off the gas,
Yeah, it feels almost like a normal car.
yeah, some of them it really grabs and the nose dives. Like the Prius is really aggressive with it. I think the Model 3 I drove
It is
was
too.
really aggressive.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun because it almost works more like engine braking.
Right.
This doesn't have as much of that, even in Sport Plus. So the Taycan, unlike a Model S or the Model 3,
Uh-huh.
it has a 2-speed transmission.
Oh, it does.
So they do that so they can get maximum acceleration, but also have good efficiency at highway speeds. They made it so you kind of feel the shift. I think it happens more like at 20 to 30 miles an hour.
Oh.
But I mean, if you want, you could stop and do a launch, and we can
Okay,
feel it.
let's
See
do
if it
that.
kicks.
Let's do that. All right.
I'm gonna put my head on the headrest.
You ready?
I think so.
Oh.
Man.
All right.
I mean, that's 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. But you don't feel it.
You don't feel it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like anything. It's so quiet in here, and I feel like we're in a spa. I just need some cucumber slices to put on my eyes, and you can just drive around.
Both of us were impressed by the Taycan's handling, although it can't really hide its weight. Clever traction control and stability systems make it very easy to drive. It sounds cool enough for an EV, but it's still an EV. A Fisher-Price guitar is no V12 Les Paul. The interior is a near-perfect execution of integrating new technology into a modern design that is both practical and intuitive. And we both like how it looks on the outside. A future classic? Dai thinks this is just the starting point for Porsche EVs, so he gave it a 5. But I'm looking at the rising values of Tesla Roadsters, so I think it will definitely be a collectible. Our scores average out to a 46.
If your biggest concern with an EV is range, then this probably just isn't the car for you. But if you are looking for a comprehensive driving experience that is on par with sports sedans that you loved before, or even sports cars you loved before, I think this is the only choice in the market today. It has the best steering feedback, the chassis control is really good, I think the interior fit and finish is excellent, it looks futuristic but also kind of classic. So, does it live up to the Porsche crest? Yeah, I would say it does. It definitely does.